Atlanta's night was supposed to stay quiet, but at 3 a.m., the calm was shattered with news that shook the whole city. King Harris, the son of rap legend Ty and Tiny, was fighting for his life inside the ICU. His fragile body hooked up to cold machines. Every beep of the monitor sounding like a countdown. Doctors whispered the unthinkable. Prepare for the worst. As the Harris family's nightmare truly began, leaving the hip-hop world frozen in fear. Inside Grady Memorial, the fluorescent lights buzzed while alarms blared. Doctors racing around King's bed, desperate to keep him alive. This wasn't just a medical emergency. It felt like a real-life horror scene unfolding in front of everyone's eyes. And then it spiraled even darker with leaks, rumors, and revelations hitting the internet like explosions spreading panic everywhere. Tiny King's mother completely broke down in the hallway, collapsing as her heartbreaking screams echoed through the hospital corridors. Her body was shaking so hard nurses had to hold her upright as cameras captured the devastating scene. Footage that spread like wildfire across social media, leaving millions of fans sobbing worldwide. Hashtags like Pray for King and Wiring Justice for King. Harris shot to the very top of global trends within minutes, turning the tragedy into a worldwide spotlight. But just as the world mourned with the Harris family, chilling details started to leak out, twisting this heartbreak into something darker and far more sinister. A supposed medical report suggested King's injuries weren't from a simple scuffle behind bars. Insiders whispered his body carried marks of cold, calculated torture, wounds too methodical, too cruel to be explained by fists or kicks. This wasn't just a beating. This looked like a warning, like somebody wanted him destroyed, maybe even erased completely. Then came the audio leak that shook the nation to its core. In the grainy clip, a prison guard's voice whispered, "The order came from above. We just cleared the way." That one chilling line flipped the internet upside down. Who gave the order? Who wanted King Harris silenced so badly that his suffering looked like a planned execution? Fans, bloggers, and conspiracy hunters wasted no time. Fingers were pointing in every direction. Rival gangs, old industry enemies, even powerful names in politics and the prison system were dragged into the storm. Whispers spread that maybe this wasn't even about King at all. Maybe it was about silencing the entire Harris family once and for all. And just when people thought it couldn't get more terrifying, a new rumor blew up online. A supposed ICU CCTV clip allegedly showed masked men slipping into King's hospital room in the dead of night, tampering with his life support machines. If that footage is real, it means King's life wasn't safe, even under hospital lights, surrounded by doctors, because forces way bigger than anyone imagined wanted him gone. Outside the hospital, Atlanta was heating up with chaos. Protesters, fans, and family crowded the streets chanting, "Protect King!" while candles flickered in the freezing air. Some prayed, others shouted for justice, their anger boiling over. And inside, T himself stood broken, completely shattered by what was happening around his son. The man who once walked with unshakable confidence was now a shell of himself, pacing hospital halls, hands trembling, voice breaking as he pleaded with cameras. "My son is being targeted like he's some kind of enemy. He's just a kid. Please, someone stop this madness." His raw, desperate cries spread like wildfire, pulling in waves of sympathy from some, but cold, cruel comments from others who heartlessly claimed this was karma for T.I.'s past. The internet instantly split in two, half rallying behind the Harris family, half mocking their pain, turning a deeply personal tragedy into a global spectacle. And then came the footage no one was ready for. An anonymous source dropped a bombshell. What they claimed was CCTV from inside, the hospital itself showing two hooded figures sneaking into King's ICU at exactly 2:47 a.m. One figure crouched near his bed while the other posted up at the door like a lookout. The clip ended before revealing more, but the implications were bone-chilling. Someone was actively sabotaging his recovery. Nurses and doctors already drowning in pressure allegedly whispered that they feared outside interference. That even within the hospital walls, King's life was hanging by a thread. A whistleblower nurse dropped a chilling claim. King's ventilator had mysteriously shut off for several seconds that very night before alarms blared through the ICU. But when investigators looked for the footage of that exact moment, it was gone from hospital records. Coincidence or a full-blown cover-up? Nobody knew for sure, but the internet exploded with accusations that powerful figures were pulling strings to erase evidence and silence King forever. Meanwhile, the Harris family's heartbreak kept spilling out in front of the entire world. Tiny was filmed outside the ICU doors, crying so hard she nearly collapsed, pleading, "Don't take my baby." "Don't take him from me." The clip broke millions of hearts online, replayed endlessly across TikTok and Instagram as fans wept along with her pain. Ty, on the other hand, couldn't hold back his fury. Witnesses claimed he punched walls, screamed at doctors, and accused the hospital of covering up what he believed was murder. His rage reportedly got so explosive that security had to step in after he smashed a chair in the hallway. Those images raced across the internet, showing not just a father desperate to save his son, but a man raging against a system he believed was trying to erase him. And just when the storm seemed like it couldn't get any heavier, another shocking claim dropped. King's blood had reportedly tested positive for strange toxins, substances not tied to the jail beating and not linked to any hospital medication. Whispers grew louder. Someone was poisoning him from the inside. Anonymous hacker groups even claimed they broke into hospital files, posting a chilling message online. "They're not saving King, they're finishing him." Fans across the globe erupted, convinced this was no random fight gone wrong. It was a full-blown targeted attack backed by serious power. Meanwhile, the streets outside boiled over. Protests turned violent as demonstrators clashed with riot police standing guard at the hospital doors. Tear gas filled the air, chaos erupted, and Atlanta looked like a battleground over King's fate. Social media lit up with live streams, millions watching in real time as the city burned with rage and heartbreak. By sunrise, this was no longer just about a young man clinging to life. It had erupted into a full-blown war of narratives. Some voices online claimed King was paying for the sins of his father, while others insisted he was the target of an industry plot meant to silence him before he could speak out. With every rumor, every leak, and every chilling sound echoing from the ICU, the truth slipped further away into chaos. But one thing couldn't be denied. King Harris was trapped in the middle of a storm way bigger than himself. A storm that threatened to shatter not just his family, but shake the entire hip-hop industry. As dawn crept over Atlanta, the nightmare only grew darker. King's condition slipped from critical but stable into something far more terrifying. Doctors whispered about organ failure while nurses scrambled room to room carrying trays of emergency drugs. And every single beep from the machines hooked to King's frail body hit like a hammer against his family's hearts. Then, at around 5 a.m., Ty and Tiny were pulled into a private room where they were told words no parent should ever have to hear. "If we don't see improvement soon, we may have to discuss letting him go." That single line shattered the Harris family into pieces. Tiny collapsed again, screaming so loudly that staff swore her cries shook the entire floor. Witnesses claimed she even had to be treated herself after fainting from the shock. A secret recording of that exact breakdown leaked online, flooding millions of feeds and turning the internet into a river of heartbreak. People didn't just see her pain, they felt it. Raw, unfiltered grief spread across the world, as if everyone was watching a mother lose her soul in real time. But just when it seemed like things couldn't possibly sink any deeper, another confidential bombshell dropped. A leaked report suggested King's bloodstream carried traces of a mysterious substance, something that didn't match a single treatment doctors had prescribed. Analysts ruled out all common drugs, hinting this wasn't a simple medical crisis. It was pure sabotage. Someone had allegedly tampered with his IV line, slipping poison into his system while he lay defenseless in that hospital bed. The revelation exploded online, fueling hashtags like ICUB breach and Protect King Harris. As millions demanded answers, fans demanded answers. How could the son of one of hip-hop's biggest stars, a high-profile patient in one of Atlanta's busiest hospitals, be left so exposed? Within hours, anonymous accounts dropped yet another jaw-dropping clip. Allegedly CCTV footage showing two hooded figures sneaking into King's ICU. One leaned over his bed while the other stood guard at the door like they were running a mission. The footage cut off before revealing what they did. But the message couldn't be clearer. Someone didn't just want King hurt, they wanted him gone. And they weren't stopping at jailhouse walls. They had followed him straight into the hospital itself. Meanwhile, the chaos outside turned explosive. Fans and protesters packed the streets, candles glowing in the night alongside signs screaming justice for King. The air was heavy with tension, chants echoing while helicopters circled overhead and riot police clashed with the crowd. The hospital no longer looked like a place of healing. It had transformed into a battlefield. Reporters swarmed the scene, cameras capturing every scream, every tear, every argument that broke out in the chaos. The Harris family's private heartbreak was now a public spectacle blasted worldwide for millions to dissect. Tiny's relatives reportedly pointed fingers at Ty, accusing him of dragging a curse onto the family because of his past lifestyle. Ty snapped back in rage, shouting, "This ain't karma, this is murder." That fiery clash was caught on camera, went viral in seconds, and only poured gasoline on the internet's divide. Online, the world split in two. Half convinced King was an innocent victim trapped in a deadly conspiracy, and half Cree insisting the Harris family was finally paying for old sins. But then came a leak that made every rumor before it looked small. This one allegedly tied to a high-ranking official deep inside Georgia's prison system. In a muffled phone call, a chilling voice delivered the words that froze millions in their tracks. "If the boy talks, everything collapses. He can't leave that bed alive." That single sentence set the internet ablaze. Suddenly, the story wasn't just about King being attacked because of his father. Fans now believed he was holding secrets so dangerous that powerful people wanted him silenced forever. Ty, readied and broken, doubled down outside the hospital, telling reporters through a cracked voice, "My son is a victim of a system that would rather silence him than protect him. This ain't no accident. This is planned." His words split the internet even deeper. Some stood firmly with him, while others mocked, accusing him of using tragedy to win sympathy. But whether people believed him or not, one truth couldn't be ignored. The Harris family was living through pure hell, and the whole world was watching every second. Inside the ICU, the nightmare only grew darker. A whistleblower nurse risked her entire career to reveal that King's ventilator had mysteriously shut off for several seconds in the dead of night before alarms screamed. And when staff tried to pull up security footage from that exact moment, the files were missing, completely gone, erased like they had never existed. Coincidence or a deliberate cover-up? Fans across the globe didn't hesitate. They screamed cover-up on every platform as social media drowned in conspiracy threads. Some claimed this was mafia-style revenge. Others swore jealous rappers had set it up. And even more insisted the government itself was pulling the strings behind the scenes. Theories spread like wildfire, but one thing nobody doubted. King Harris's life was hanging by the thinnest thread. Even celebrities jumped in, making the storm grow even bigger. Cardi B went live in tears saying, "That baby don't deserve this. I don't care what you think about his daddy. Pray for King, man." Her emotional plea shook fans everywhere. Then Snoop Dogg dropped a cryptic warning that sent chills through social media. "The industry ain't what it seems. Protect your kids day after all of us." Those words hit like a bomb, almost confirming what fans already feared. That something much darker was unfolding behind the scenes. Meanwhile, the hospital itself transformed into a fortress. Security was tripled after protesters tried to storm the entrance while police in full riot gear lined the perimeter. The building no longer looked like a hospital. It looked like a battlefield with King Harris's fragile life at the very center of it all. Inside, doctors grew desperate, whispering phrases no parent should ever hear. Multi-organ failure and irreversible damage. Every second felt like a countdown nobody could stop. Cold medical words ripped straight through the Harris family like knives. One insider claimed T.I. completely lost control, punching walls, screaming at doctors, shouting, "Don't tell me to let go. You're lying. You're not doing enough." His rage shook the entire floor, terrifying patients and staff alike. But it also revealed just how broken he truly was. Meanwhile, Tiny clung to King's hand so tightly that nurses had to pry her back. Neither parent would leave his side, even as doctors warned them that the next few hours would decide everything. The tension was unbearable, and by morning, social media was drowning in leaks, each more horrifying than the last. One shocking claim said King had actually been declared clinically dead for nearly 2 minutes, before doctors jolted his heart back with electric paddles. If that rumor was true, it meant the Harris family had already witnessed the unthinkable, their son slipping away, only for him to be pulled back from the edge of death. That revelation sent fans into meltdown, sobbing at the thought of a mother nearly losing her child in real time, and whispering dark theories that someone was deliberately keeping King trapped between life and death. By noon, what started as a private family tragedy had erupted into a full-blown international scandal. The crowd outside the hospital had swelled from hundreds to thousands, voices rising, chants shaking the streets, tears flowing as people demanded justice louder than ever. Helicopters roared overhead as Atlanta began to look like a city under siege. Inside, T and Tiny refused to leave King's bedside, clinging to him even as his body showed chilling signs of shutting down. Doctors repeated the phrase no parent ever wants to hear, "Prepare for the worst." When that line leaked, it spread like wildfire. Prepare for King shot to the very top of trending charts as millions of fans poured out prayers, videos, and desperate pleas for a miracle. But the prayers weren't the only thing spreading. Dark whispers grew louder. This wasn't fate. This wasn't an accident, but a carefully orchestrated plot by powerful hands determined to finish what started back in that jail cell. King Harris was no longer just a teenager fighting for survival. He had become the center of one of the darkest, most controversial sagas the rap game had ever witnessed. By nightfall, Atlanta sat on edge. Grady Memorial didn't look like a hospital anymore. It looked like a war zone with riot police guarding the doors, helicopters buzzing above, and thousands of fans holding candles and signs, chanting into the night, "Justice for King." The world wasn't just watching anymore. It was demanding answers. Inside the ICU, the atmosphere was suffocating as King Harris's body hit rock bottom. His lungs failing, kidneys shutting down every passing hour, dragging him closer to the edge. Doctors whispered the most devastating words, "Prepare for the worst." When that phrase leaked, it tore across the internet like lightning, unleashing a wave of panic so massive that "Prepare for King's" shot to the #1 trending spot worldwide. People weren't just tweeting prayers, they were begging for a miracle. And then came the most shocking claim of all. Insiders alleged King had been declared clinically dead for 2 whole minutes before a doctor jolted his heart back to life. A whistleblower swore the medical team had to hit him with electric paddles, not once, but twice, just to restart his pulse, painting the image of a young man already dragged out of death's grip. That revelation shattered fans to their core, some sobbing uncontrollably, others convinced this wasn't just fate at all, but a sinister plan to keep King trapped between life and death. Ty and Tiny's grief exploded into open war against the hospital. Witnesses said T snapped after learning his son's heart had stopped, storming into the ICU hallway and unleashing pure rage at administrators. "If my son dies, I swear the truth will come out. Y'all think this is medicine? No, this is murder." His fury was so violent that he allegedly smashed a chair against the wall before security restrained him. That shocking meltdown leaked online within minutes. Millions watched in real time as a father hit his breaking point, sending shockwaves across social media. Meanwhile, Tiny was filmed collapsing to her knees outside the ICU doors, clutching a rosary, and sobbing so hard she could barely catch her breath. That heartbreaking footage was replayed endlessly across TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. Anchors even called it one of the saddest scenes of the year. Fans around the globe cried as they watched a mother beg God to save her child. The Harris family's private anguish had transformed into one of the most public tragedies the culture had ever seen. A moment where grief, conspiracy, and spectacle collided all at once. But the storm only grew darker. Anonymous hackers claimed they had broken into hospital records, releasing a confidential report that revealed King's bloodstream carried foreign toxins, substances that didn't match any medication prescribed by doctors. The hackers didn't just dump files. They dropped a bombshell statement. They're not saving King, they're finishing him. That revelation poured gasoline on an already raging inferno. Protesters outside the hospital erupted, chanting, "Cover up! Cover up!" as others clashed with police in the streets. Tear gas filled the air while live streams broadcast the chaos in real time. Millions tuning in to watch Atlanta transform into a city of unrest. Even the celebrity world couldn't stay silent anymore. 50 Cent jumped on Instagram calling out industry snakes he claimed orchestrated the attack. Meek Mill tweeted, "They tried to silence the next generation before they even start. This ain't no accident." And Kanye West dropped a cryptic post that sent chills across the internet. "This is what happens when you say no to them. They punish your bloodline." Each statement only fanned the flames, convincing fans even more that King wasn't just a victim of violence, but trapped in a much bigger war involving industry power, prison corruption, and politics. And that's where we leave it for now. This story is still unfolding and the world is watching every second. If you've been following this journey, hit that like button and subscribe for more updates because this saga is far from over. The theory spiraled into pure madness. Some swore jealous rappers had set this up as revenge, while others claimed rival gangs wanted to send a brutal message straight to T.I. And then came the wildest whispers. Voices online saying government officials themselves were silencing King over something he knew. Anonymous accounts even insisted King had been working on an unreleased track that allegedly exposed powerful industry names and that this was the real reason behind his vicious attack. True or not, the speculation had spun completely out of control. The internet wasn't just following the story anymore. It was steering it. Minute by minute, leak by leak, post by post, the online world shaped the narrative until King Harris's life became a global spectacle. Every tear from his parents, every scream from his fans, every rumor of sabotage only added more fuel to a tragedy that refused to slow down. And then came the footage that froze the world in place. A supposed ICU camera feed surfaced showing two masked men lurking right outside King's hospital room, one of them clutching what looked like a small case. Conspiracy theorists swore it contained poison or even tools to tamper with his medical equipment. Real or fake, the images sent shivers through millions. The clip exploded online within minutes, convincing millions that King was still under attack, even inside the hospital walls. By late evening, T stepped outside to face the massive crowd flooding the streets. His face was streaked with tears, his body shaking, his voice cracking as he cried out. They told me to prepare for the worst. But how do you prepare for losing your child? My boy's in there fighting for his life while the world watches. Please, I'm begging you. Pray harder than you've ever prayed. He doesn't deserve this. None of this is fair. That gut-wrenching plea went viral instantly, replayed millions of times across every platform. Fans described it as one of the rawest, most emotional moments ever seen from a rap legend. A father stripped bare by pain, begging the world to pray for his son. But even as those words echoed online, the rumors refused to die down. Dark whispers kept spreading. People convinced this wasn't just a jailhouse fight gone wrong, but something far bigger, more sinister, and deliberately aimed at the Harris family. This wasn't just violence. People swore it was an assassination attempt carefully planned from the very top. Why did the prison cameras mysteriously cut out during the attack? Who ordered the guards to stand down? And who kept making sure hospital records and leaks disappeared into thin air? The questions only multiplied while the answers stayed buried deep in the shadows. Doctors warned yet again. The next 24 hours were critical. King Harris was still clinging to life, trapped between survival and tragedy, still at the center of one of the darkest stories Atlanta had ever witnessed. His family was told once more to prepare for the unthinkable, but they refused to let go, clutching onto faith while the entire world held its breath. Here's the cold truth. This isn't gossip. This isn't just entertainment. And it sure isn't over. What's happening to King Harris is a tragedy playing out in real time. A storm that shattered his family, divided his fans, and shook the entire industry to its core. And the scariest part is this. The story is still unfolding and nobody knows what comes next. This wasn't just violence. People swore it was an assassination attempt carefully planned from the very top. Why did the prison cameras mysteriously cut out during the attack? Who ordered the guards to stand down? And who kept making sure hospital records and leaks disappeared into thin air? The questions only multiplied while the answers stayed buried deep in the shadows. Doctors warned yet again. The next 24 hours were critical. King Harris was still clinging to life, trapped between survival and tragedy, still at the center of one of the darkest stories Atlanta had ever witnessed. His family was told once more to prepare for the unthinkable, but they refused to let go, clutching onto faith while the entire world held its breath. Here's the cold truth. This isn't gossip. This isn't just entertainment, and it sure isn't over. What's happening to King Harris is a tragedy playing out in real time. A storm that shattered his family, divided his fans, and shook the entire industry to its core. And the scariest part is this. The story is still unfolding and nobody knows what comes. Folding and nobody knows what comes.